Okay, we're all good?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for coming to our press conference today. My name is Jenny Kwan. I'm the Member of Parliament for Vancouver East and the NDP critic for Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship. Joining me today are a number of special guests, and particularly I would like to welcome the family members who's arrived from Gaza. And in no particular order, I'm just going to point to them. Kazem El-Yaji, I hope I can pronounce the last name correctly, is here with me, and along with him are his 3 children. And they're all here as well. With Kazem, we also have another family member, Fatim El-Kadi is here as well. And last but not least, we have Matthew Behrens, who is a community advocate for the TRV program. So we will start. I'm going to first begin by sharing with you words from a family member. And this is their experience for 2 years, and over 2 years. And they've been waiting for action with the Canadian government. They're holding on to hope, and they're saying what needs to be done is that Canada must deliver for Gaza families. The Rafah border is open. Action needs to be taken. 2.5 years later, family members are still waiting. So today, I'm here to speak on her behalf about the Canadian Gaza Family Reunification Program, a program announced with urgency and compassion, a program that promised safety, dignity, and family unity during one of the darkest times in recent history. But almost 2.5 years later, far too many families are still waiting. They have hope that people in Gaza who applied to the program would be able to get to safety. But the process was such that they had applied. Many never received access codes before the cap was reached. And there are families who gathered documents under bombardment, who risked everything just to apply, only to be shut out, not because they weren't ineligible necessarily, but because the system closed before it could process them. Others who did receive files and codes, but were never evacuated, never got to safety. And for months, the explanation was that the closure of the Rafah border. And yes, Rafah has been unstable and politically difficult. But even now, with the ceasefire, with the border opening at intervals, we still have not seen evacuation efforts resume in a meaningful way. And these families remain trapped, not because Canada rejected them, but because the pathway to safety has stalled. Then there are families who managed to reach Egypt. And by the way, not because of the help of the Canadian government, but on their own, often having to pay significant sums to get across the border. And when they got across the border, they still had to wait for months on end before they can get to safety. And some still have not arrived. They escaped war only to enter a different kind of limbo. Many have waited for months for visas, and their savings are running out. Their legal status is fragile, and every day they live with fear and uncertainty about what comes next. And even for those who have finally reached Canada, the challenges did not end on arrival. Work permits are delayed for months, and without them, people cannot earn a living or regain independence. Elderly arrivals receive almost no tailored support. Housing is unaffordable, and many cannot sign leases without Canadian family members co-signing, adding pressure to families who are already stretched thin. And now another crisis is approaching: time. Families who arrived in June 2024 will soon approach 2 years in Canada. And by June 2026, they will have only 1 year left on their temporary residence. Temporary status creates permanent anxieties. Parents cannot plan, children cannot feel secure, families cannot rebuild with a countdown above their heads. And Canada said this program was about compassion and family unity. And we believe those intentions were real when it was said. But compassion must be matched with action. Announcements must be followed with meaningful steps. Promises must be followed by protection. And this program was not meant to leave people stuck in Gaza. It was not meant to leave families stranded in Egypt. And it was not meant to bring people to Canada only to leave them waiting for basic documents, income, housing, and stability. The issues are not new. They are simply unresolved. They are not asking for anything extraordinary. They are asking for the program to function as it was meant to do. And what they need for the government to do is to provide clear evacuation pathways and bring people to safety. They need timely visa processing. They need fast-tracked work permits and a clear path to move families from temporary status to stability through permanent pathways. And because family reunification is more than crossing a border, it is about rebuilding a life, and now too many families are waiting for that chance. Those were the words from a family member. That's what they are experiencing. And today, she couldn't join us because she couldn't bear to stand here once again to urge action, having waited more than 2.5 years with loved ones still left behind, having talked to too many family members who's lost loved ones as they wait, and the incredible barriers that the government has foisted on these families. It is astounding. Biometrics, the government knows that biometrics cannot be accessible to these families. There are no embassies there to process the biometrics. The government knows that. But yet, no workaround is put in place to help facilitate for the families to get their security screening done. We have family members, and we will hear directly from the family members that has been separated, where one loved one, one member of the family has been left behind because biometrics has not been completed. And there's no way for her to get those biometrics done under these conditions. We have a situation where people, as mentioned, somehow made it across the border to Egypt on their own, not with the facilitation or support of the Canadian government, having to pay exorbitant amounts of money to get there, and only to have to wait in Egypt. One family member who's here today will speak about her story. And she, by the way, waited 1.5 years after she was in Egypt with biometrics completed to get to Canada to safety. And for those who's arrived with only temporary status right now, with the reduced immigration levels plan numbers and the existing inventory in the humanitarian compassionate stream, it would take over 50 years to process those applications for these family members to get their permanent residence status. And that would mean young children will grow old without status. That would mean elderly middle-aged people may not live to see permanent resident status here in Canada. And time is running out for them because their temporary residence permit is only for 3 years. And time will run out for them if the government does not take immediate action. So I'm here today to call for action from the government. One, to expedite the processing for all the remaining Gaza Special Immigration Measures applications within 14 days, using streamlined security screening standards similar to those applied during the 2022 emergency response for Ukrainians. Two, create a dedicated long-term immigration stream for Palestinians affected by conflict and displacement, including a pathway to permanent residency. Three, reform the Gaza temporary resident visa program to ensure transparency, accessibility under conflict conditions, and equitable processing, along with comprehensive settlement supports to facilitate employment, education, and healthcare access. Last but not least, support Bill C-233 to ensure that Canadian components or weapon systems are not complicit in this humanitarian crisis. Those who have lost their lives, it may well be that it was done with Canadian components that was shipped through a loophole through the United States to Israel, and as a result, Canada is complicit in this atrocity, and that must end. So with that, I'm going to call up the next speaker, Kasim, to come and say a few words. Kasim.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. My name is Kasim Eliazji. I am a father of 3 children. I came to Canada through the Canadian government's special measures for families from Gaza because of the war. I am deeply grateful to Canada for saving my children's life, but my family is not whole. My wife, the mother of my children, was not evacuated with us, not because she chose to stay behind, not because we wanted to be separated, but because she was unable to complete biometrics under impossible conditions during the war. When we received the news that we were approved to travel through Kerem Shalom, we were the happiest we had been in 15 months of destruction and fear. For a brief moment, we forget the bombs, the rockets, the loss. We believed we had been given a chance as family to live somewhere safe. Then we carefully read the email from the Canadian Embassy in Amman. My wife's name was not there. In that moment, we froze. We didn't know what to feel. My children began crying. They said they did not want to leave without their mom. After surviving 15 months of war side by side, holding them in our arms, trying to shield them from explosion, we were suddenly faced with another kind of devastation, separation. My wife and I made the hardest decision of our lives. She chose to stay behind so our children could live. No mother should ever have to choose between staying with her children and sending them away to survive. But in Gaza, survival was not guaranteed. There were no safe office, no safe movement, no functioning system to complete biometrics. My wife did not refuse biometrics. She was prevented by the reality of war. The day was one of the most painful days of our lives. My children had already endured 15 months of conflict, yet they were forced to say goodbye to their mom, not knowing if it might be the last time. Today I am safe in Canada with my children, but every night my children ask me the same questions. When will mom come? And I don't have an answer. I have contacted the Canadian authorities seeking help to reunite our family. But so far, we have not found a solution. I stand before you today with respect and hope. To the officials of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, I respectfully ask for flexibility and compassion in exceptional humanitarian cases like mine. Biometrics are fingerprints and photo, reasonable in normal circumstances, but impossible under active war conditions. Canada saved my children's lives. Now we ask Canada to help make our family whole again before it may be too late. Thank you for listening.
Should we lift her up? Lift her up. We can lift her. Can you lift her?
Okay.
Oh, I see.
We'll lift her up.
Oh, okay.
Okay, can this is Yuri?
Okay.
Just in here?
My name is.
Sorry. Stand on this side here so that the camera's over there.
Hi, my name is Judy. I want to ask one question about myself. The one question is, this month is Ramadan, and my mom not with me, and I'm very sad that my mom not with me. I wish that every time when I wake up, I can see my mom. I wish that my mom can be beside me. And I wish Canada can help me to bring my mom. I cannot be alone. I'm trying my best to speak English. I'm trying to do everything. I'm trying to my mom come. I wish Canada can help me. Please, Canada, try your best to help me. Please.
Thank you very much for sharing your story and your experiences with us. And I think this tells you what needs to be done. And with this, I'm also asking the Minister of Immigration to take time to meet with the family members. Perhaps if she heard directly from them, she might be more motivated to take action, to facilitate a workaround process on the biometrics requirements and to bring family members and reunite them here in Canada to safety. Next, I'm going to ask Matthew Behrens to come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Jenny, for organizing today. And as Jenny Kwan said, no 8-year-old child should have to appear before the national media begging to have her mother by her side. You see how traumatic it is for her and for her brothers. This is a family who 2 weeks after arriving in Canada last year went to the election office of then candidate for Prime Minister Mark Carney with a letter asking for the Minister of Immigration in a new government to commit to showing the kind of discretion that would allow for her family and other divided families to be reunited. A year later, we have yet to get a response. We have written to the visa post in Amman on behalf of this family, and we have said, look, you have waived biometrics. You have the discretion to do that. You did that in the Ukraine program. You did that in the program for Afghans who were fleeing Kabul. Why will you not do it in this case and in the cases of other Palestinian families? Again, we hear nothing. In addition, this is a government that by all rights should have admitted the mom, Doa Nashwan, under Section 42.1 of the Act, which says you do not allow any members of a family to come to Canada unless one member of those family is inadmissible. Well, Qasim was admitted to Canada, so by logic, there is no reason other than pure racism and cruelty to prevent Doa Nashwan from coming to Canada. As Jenny Kwan said, we have arms that are being part of this genocide, and Canada has to stop playing Russian roulette, and in this case, Canadian roulette, with the loved ones of Canadian Palestinians. We need to apply the standard that is used in international humanitarian work, which says rescue first, paperwork later. Under that same principle in 1999, the Canadian government undertook an airlift of 9,000 Kosovan refugees from an ethnic cleansing campaign in Europe and brought them to Canada and placed them on Canadian military bases and performed the immigration processing there. There is nothing preventing Canada from doing the exact same thing here today in 2026. All they need to do is send airplanes to Ramon Airport, as other European and Arabic nations have done, and evacuate the 3,500 individuals who are still waiting 26 months into this program. Canada also needs to stop treating every single Palestinian as suspect. In any other context, we would call this what it is, racial profiling. And that is in stark contrast to the program that Jenny Kwan mentioned earlier, the Ukraine program, which within 2 years brought over 298,000 people to Canada, and of course they were welcome. We approved close to 1 million Ukrainian visas in that 2-year time period. Under the Gaza TRV program, fewer than 950 have arrived, 96% of them on their own steam. So just to reiterate, we are calling on the Canadian government to immediately evacuate people either through the Ramon Airport or through the other border, because Rafah is not the only border that is open. The other border, which this family came through, is Karam Abu Salam. And thousands of individuals have come through that border. In fact, in September of 2025, the Israeli Border Authority said the following, quote, "We are not restricting exits and will continue to coordinate additional departures at the request of embassies. Departures will be carried out by receiving an order from the embassy of the future country." Why hasn't Canada put in those requests? The systemic problems of this program have been well documented in reports, including that which was called Intended to Fail. We've seen the intrusive application requirements that wanted to know about every scar on your body, every job you had going back to being a teenager, why you left a job, why you were dismissed from a job. We have asked healthcare practitioners about the alleged political affiliations of patients they saw in emergency rooms. We have seen guilt by alleged association based on which university you attended. We have seen guilt by association if you worked in a government job. We have seen questions asked about which kids your kids play with. We have seen in one family's case a 12-year-old girl rejected while her 10-year-old sister was accepted, and the 12-year-old is saying, "Mommy, Daddy, why are they not accepting me?" Yesterday, we got the heartbreaking news that a 74-year-old Palestinian grandfather who has been waiting almost 2 years in Egypt for his visa to be processed was rejected. A year ago today, his wife passed away despite a member of parliament and doctors' reports saying she urgently needed to get to Canada for cardiac care. She has passed away, and yesterday we were informed that this 74-year-old gentleman, whose own adult son was accepted to come to Canada, is being refused because of the social media posts allegedly made by another member of his family, and this man is not even on social media. So ultimately, we're saying we need to step up the pace. It takes a couple of hours to run biometrics through a computer system. It does not take 2 years. And on top of that, anyone who leaves, like this family, gets approved by the Israeli authorities first, who are the most surveillance-heavy occupying power in human history. They know everything about individuals. They are not going to let someone leave if they feel that there's the slightest potential that they are a threat. And yet Canada is not even taking the Israeli word. So we are calling on the Carney government, and specifically the Ministers of Public Safety and Immigration, who, in the spirit of the Carney Davos talk in January of 26, when he said, we knew that international law applied with varying rigor depending on the identity of the accused or the victim, that double standard, that hypocrisy is rooted in the apartheid wall that runs right through Canadian immigration and public safety. We need to bring that wall down. We need to stop racial profiling these families. We need to reunite them and bring them all to Canada for immigration processing here. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Last but not least, we're going to ask Fatim to come and share her story. Fatim.
Hello. I stand before you today, but I'm only a fragment of the person I used to be. This is my beloved husband, Ahmed, me, Fatin, and our little boy, Rida. We were a small, loving family. I worked as a teacher in Ottawa schools, and Ahmed was an environmental engineer. In January 2023, we welcomed our first baby. It was the happiest moments of our lives. We together celebrated Rida's first smile and his first word, Baba. By October, that happiness turned into a nightmare. On October 13, 2023, at 2 a.m., we received a call from the IDF ordering us to flee south of Gaza. Explosions were very close to us. We had nowhere to go south, but we left. We left using the road declared safe. Thousands of people were at that road. Everyone is trying to survive. Then, an airstrike hit the car beside us. Flames rose. We were trapped. I held my baby very close. I was terrified. Ahmed looked at me and said, "It's okay, I am with you." Those were his last words. Another strike, followed by a third. I ran, holding Rida, then realized that Ahmed was no longer beside me. I gave my baby to my sister and ran back towards the explosion to find my husband lying on the ground next to the car. My soulmate was gone. In a moment, my son lost his father. I lost the man I was meant to grow old with. I tried to be strong. I placed Ahmed IDs in his pocket so he won't be an unknown martyr like hundreds. In that single minute, more than 70 people were killed. More than 70 families were shattered. I returned to my sister. She handed me my son and said, "Fatin, blood." A sharp line was shocked in her back. Even injured, she kept running to protect my son. We went back again that day, but this time without Ahmed. 2 days later, we were displayed to Rafah. We lived crowded together in a storage room. I struggled to find formula and diapers. Hunger and fear became normal. My mother was injured in another airstrike. In April 2024, we made the hard decision to leave Gaza for Egypt to survive. But I left behind my parents, siblings, my nephews and nieces. Today, they are living in conditions unfit for human life. After their home was destroyed, they have been displaced again and again from one unsafe place to another. They live without stability, without privacy, without the most basic conditions of dignity. Every day is a struggle for food, clean water, and safety. This is not life, it is survival. My nephews called me and asked if we have food. They were surprised that my son have a bed and toys. No child should be shocked by safety. No child should think food is a luxury. We arrived in Canada 4 months ago. I'm grateful to be here. My son can sleep without the sounds of bombing, but the pain didn't end. My father recently suffered a stroke, and he told me he may never see me again. I live the fear of losing another loved one from afar. At the same time, immigration errors have left me in limbo. I can't fully rebuild my life. I'm torn between securing my son's future here in Canada or returning back to see my family one last time. I stand before you today not only as a widow, but also as a mother asking for compassion. I ask this government to evacuate relatives of Canadian Palestinian families still trapped in Gaza. Create a pathway for Gazans seeking safety even if they don't have immediate relatives here. Provide financial and vocational support so newcomers can rebuild. Transition temporary visas to permanent residency so family can heal. Ahmad's last word were, I am with you. Today I ask, who is with the people of Gaza? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fatim. We're now open for questions, if there are any.
Thank you. That's all the time we had for this press conference. This will conclude. Merci. C'est tout le temps que nous avions pour la conférence de presse. Ceci met fin à la conférence de presse.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I just want to close with these final words, and suffice to say, even with the ceasefire, the reality is over 500 Palestinians have been killed, and civilians continue to lose their lives. So what we need is urgent action, and I call on the Carney government to live up to the promise that he made on the international stage in Davos, and the promise that the Liberal government made to the families that are standing here with me and many who are just waiting for their loved ones to get to safety. Thank you.